Every year, thousands of startups launch with big dreams, ambitious founders, and investor capital backing their vision. But 90% of startups fail, and many of the biggest, most heavily funded startups collapse in spectacular fashion. Billions of dollars of investor capital evaporate, hundreds of employees lose their jobs, and the dream of disruption turns into cautionary tales. Today, we're analyzing the 10 biggest startup failures in history, understanding what went wrong, and learning the fundamental lessons that apply to every startup venture. This is the complete story of how billion-dollar startups collapse and what their failures reveal about venture capital and entrepreneurship. WeWork was founded by Adam Neumann with a vision of revolutionizing the concept of shared workspaces and creating community-focused office culture. The company promised to transform how people work, combining co-working with community building, wellness programs, and a lifestyle brand around work. By 2019, WeWork had expanded to hundreds of locations globally with millions of square feet of office space under management. Investors were mesmerized by the brand, the culture, and the promise of disrupting the real estate industry forever. WeWork reached a valuation of $47 billion, making it one of the most valuable startups in history at that time. But beneath the polished brand and inspirational messaging, WeWork had a fundamental problem. The company had no viable business model. WeWork was expanding offices faster than it could fill them, signing long-term leases at unsustainable rates and burning massive amounts of cash. Adam Neumann was living a lavish lifestyle funded by investor capital, with private jets, expensive parties, and extravagant spending normalized. In 2019, when WeWork attempted to go public, investors demanded to see the financial details and discovered the terrifying truth about the company's finances. WeWork was burning through billions annually with no path to profitability and no business model that would ever generate sustainable returns. If you're watching this and you're shocked that $47 billion of companies collapse due to a lack of fundamental business viability, like this video to show that startup fundamentals matter, and subscribed because we're analyzing the collapse of billion-dollar companies and revealing what kills startups. The IPO was cancelled, panic set in, and WeWork's valuation evaporated from $47 billion to less than $10 billion in just months. WeWork taught investors that brand and culture cannot substitute for sustainable unit economics and viable business models. Theranos was founded by Elizabeth Holmes, a Stanford dropout who promised to revolutionize medical testing forever. Holmes claimed she had developed technology that could test for hundreds of diseases using a single drop of blood from a finger prick. The promise was revolutionary: cheaper, faster, less invasive testing that would democratize medical diagnostics globally. Investors were captivated by Holmes, who deliberately modeled herself after Steve Jobs with black turtlenecks, minimalist design, and a compelling vision. The media called her a visionary. Forbes put her on the cover, and she became the world's youngest self-made female billionaire on paper. Theranos reached a $9 billion valuation and was considered one of the most promising startups in medical technology history. But the truth was far darker. Theranos had no working technology. The machines failed constantly, and the company faked data to deceive investors and partners. Patients received incorrect test results based on fabricated data, putting lives at risk while the company continued to market the fake technology. In 2015, Wall Street Journal investigative journalist John Carrero exposed the fraud, revealing that Theranos had been lying to everyone. Holmes was convicted of fraud, facing prison time, and Theranos collapsed as the most shocking medical deception in modern history. Theranos demonstrated how charisma and hype can hide complete failure of actual technology when investors and media do not demand rigorous proof. FTX was founded by Sam Bankman-Fried, a young billionaire who promised to build the world's most transparent and trustworthy cryptocurrency exchange. Bankman-Fried became the face of crypto, appearing on magazine covers, sports stadiums, sponsorships, and major media outlets globally. FTX reached a $32 billion valuation as the promise of a regulated, legitimate cryptocurrency platform attracted billions in investment. But in November 2022, the entire house of cards collapsed when it was revealed that FTX had been committing massive fraud. Bankman-Fried had secretly taken $8 billion in customer funds and used them to cover losses at his personal trading firm Alameda Research. Customer deposits that were supposed to be held in safe reserve were secretly diverted to prop up his private business ventures. Within days, FTX collapsed completely. Billions of customer funds disappeared, and Bankman-Fried was arrested and faced fraud charges. FTX demonstrated that celebrity status and media attention can hide massive fraud when regulatory oversight is weak or absent. Quibi was launched with $1.75 billion in funding by legendary media executive Meg Whitman and film executive Jeffrey Katzenberg. The company promised premium short-form video content designed specifically for mobile viewing, capitalizing on Generation Z's attention spans. Quibi launched in 2020 with massive buzz, premium content partnerships, and celebrity creators commissioned for exclusive shows. But Quibi made a catastrophic error. It launched right at the beginning of COVID-19 lockdowns when people were trapped at home. The entire premise of Quibi was short, mobile-only content for people on the go, but suddenly everyone was locked at home watching long-form content. Quibi also failed to understand that consumers did not actually want a new platform for short-form video content, they wanted TikTok. The company burned through $1.75 billion and shut down after just 6 months, one of the fastest complete collapses in startup history. Quibi taught investors that product-market fit requires understanding consumer behavior and timing, not just budget and celebrity talent. Builder.ai was backed by Microsoft and Qatar Investment Authority with $445 million in funding for a no-code app development platform. The company promised that AI could automatically generate custom software applications, eliminating the need for expensive software developers. The technology was revolutionary. Imagine ordering custom apps with the same ease as ordering pizza through a completely automated AI process. But Builder.ai filed for bankruptcy in May 2025. After revelations that the AI-powered development was actually performed by hundreds of offshore human developers. The company had been deceiving investors and customers about the level of AI automation in its supposedly autonomous development platform. Builder.ai demonstrated that fake AI promises collapse when the real operational complexity is exposed to customers and investors. Pandion was founded during the COVID-19 pandemic as a delivery startup promising to revolutionize package delivery nationwide. The company raised $125 million from investors excited about the e-commerce boom driven by pandemic lockdowns. Pandion promised a tech-enabled delivery network with sortation centers and 1 million gig economy drivers nationwide. But when the pandemic boom ended and the economy normalized, the company's unsustainable unit economics became impossible to ignore. The startup abruptly shut down in January 2025. Informing 63 employees they were being let go with no severance payment. Pandion demonstrated that pandemic-driven booms create illusions of viable business models that collapse when market conditions normalize. Lilium was founded by Airbus, Boeing, and NASA engineers promising to build electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft for commercial travel. The company represented the future of transportation, with eVTOL aircraft replacing traditional helicopters for expensive urban transit. Lilium raised billions in funding and reached multi-billion-dollar valuations based on the promise of revolutionary aircraft technology. But the company faced persistent technical challenges that it could never overcome, including failure to achieve required flight performance. Lilium also faced regulatory hurdles as the Federal Aviation Administration could not approve aircraft that did not meet safety requirements. The company declared insolvency in 2025 after exhausting capital reserves and failing to raise the additional investment needed to continue development. Lilium demonstrated that hard technology with long development timelines requires more capital than venture capitalists are willing to commit. Canoo was an electric vehicle startup founded with the promise of modular, futuristic vehicles designed specifically for ride-sharing in fleets. The company raised over $1 billion in funding and achieved multi-billion-dollar valuations at the height of the EV hype cycle. But Canoo entered a market already crowded with well-funded EV startups including Tesla competitors backed by billions in capital. The company struggled to achieve production viability and could not differentiate itself in a saturated market of EV competitors. Canoo filed for bankruptcy in January 2025. After its funding sources dried up and no buyer emerged to rescue the company. Convoy was a freight marketplace startup valued at $3.8 billion and backed by billionaires including Jeff Bezos and Mark Benioff. The company promised to disrupt trucking by creating a tech-enabled marketplace connecting shippers with drivers across America. But in 2022 and 2023, the freight industry entered a severe recession with demand collapsing and prices falling dramatically. Convoy's unit economics, which seemed viable during boom times, became impossible to sustain during the freight recession. The company tried to find a buyer in its final hours but discovered that logical acquirers were also suffering from the freight market collapse. Convoy shut down in 2023, laid off its entire staff, and its assets were placed in foreclosure while investors lost their entire investment. Convoy demonstrated that even well-funded, well-managed startups fail when macroeconomic conditions turn against their market fundamentally. Instacart was hyped as the future of grocery shopping and became a pandemic winner worth up to $50 billion in investor valuations. The company promised to revolutionize how people buy groceries by delivering items from local stores within hours. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Instacart flourished as people locked down at home and used the service for essential shopping. But when the pandemic ended, intense competition emerged from Amazon, Uber, DoorDash, and Walmart, all launching competing services. Instacart's IPO was priced at only $9 to $10 billion, far below the $50 billion valuations from venture investors. The company now faces declining growth, increased competition, and regulatory challenges including FTC penalties for deceptive practices. These 10 failures reveal fundamental patterns about why startups collapse regardless of funding or founder prestige. The primary reason startups fail is lack of market need, with 42% of failures caused by building products no one actually wants. Running out of cash accounts for 38% of failures, with companies burning through capital faster than they can generate revenue. Lack of product market fit means 34% of startups discover too late that customers do not want their solution. Ineffective marketing causes 22% of failures, with companies unable to reach and acquire customers despite having viable products. Legal issues cause 19% of failures through regulatory challenges, licensing problems, and compliance failures. Team problems cause 20% of failures through co-founder conflicts, poor hiring, and leadership gaps that undermine execution. Founder burnout causes 16% of failures as unsustainable work cultures and pressure lead to health problems and departures. Lack of financing causes 47% of failures as startups run out of capital and cannot raise funds for survival. The fundamental lesson is that funding alone does not determine startup success, and many well-funded startups fail due to basic execution issues. Hype and brand cannot substitute for sustainable business models with viable unit economics and clear paths to profitability. Transparency and integrity matter more than celebrity status, as fraud and deception eventually destroy trust and destroy companies. Product market fit is foundational, and even the best-funded startups fail when products do not solve real customer problems. Market timing and economic conditions can kill viable startups that happen to launch at the wrong moment in economic cycles. Team quality and founder capability determine whether startups can execute through challenges and pivots required for survival. The startups that survive and thrive are those that obsess over unit economics, maintain sustainable burn rates, and focus on product market fit first. Understanding why these startups failed is essential for anyone building a startup or investing in the next generation of entrepreneurs.